Hey, this is Matthew, and welcome back to Nerd News Today. And in case you didn't get the memo, today we are talking Dragon Ball toys. So just recently, I got a big box from Bandai, and it was filled with what you're seeing over here next to me, and that is a bunch of different Dragon Ball toys that they're producing in various forms and sizes. This is a venerable treasure trove of DBZ stuff here. This stuff is so cool. You know, I have reviewed a bunch of Bandai things on the site before, and it's been pretty much the anime series. And anytime that I've reviewed figures from them, I've pretty much said that they are some of the most underrated figures that collectors don't even know about. If you're an anime fan, if you're a DBZ fan, then yeah, you probably already know about Bandai and you've been buying these figures. But for other toy collectors, I think this stuff is just flying under the radar and you guys don't know how good this is. And I think by the end of this review, you're gonna just see how spoiled we collectors are who get this Bandai stuff, because man, it is top notch. I think I've had very few bad words to say about any of these reviews. And I'm not saying that just because they sent me this box of freebies here. No, I've bought my own Bandai stuff plenty of times here. I don't necessarily talk about it in the channel because it might not fit what I typically do here, but I'm in love with these toys, and I think you are going to be too after you watch this video. Now, some of you might notice that I actually reviewed a few of these figures separately already. So what this video essentially is an overview and review of everything that we have here today, because what I have is essentially DBZ merch from Bandai in all sizes. And that means from smallest to largest. So for example, I have these Dragon Ball battle figures here. These are super tiny blind bags. You can see like they're not even as big as my head. I got a pretty big head. So these are pretty darn tiny. And then we jump back over here and I've got the Limit Breaker series. That is the 12-inch figures. That's the biggest. Plus we have all these guys here, which are kind of more in the 6-inch scale. They're all essentially the same family of figures, just a few differences about them. So consider this video one part review and one part just kind of looking at everything that Bandai's doing within this line here, because there's some really cool stuff. And I get the feeling I'm going to probably convert a few of you folks out there who might not even be super into this stuff. By the end of this, I'm pretty sure you're going to want to start placing some orders. So without further ado, let's Kamehameha and get to work, because we got a lot of toys to look at today. All right, so here we go, and first things that we're going to start with is the smallest figure, as I've already mentioned, and that is the Dragon Ball versus Dragon Ball Battle figure series. Very, very long name for such a tiny figure, but what these are a series of 5 blind bag toys, which you can see right now. This is what's in the full set. And yeah, they're really cool because I like minifigures. I like blind bag toys especially, so we're going to see how these look here. Now, we do have, as you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. But yeah, now we have 4 of these things here, so we're not going to get the entire set of 5, but let us see who we can get. So let's go ahead and start opening. You guys can see here, they put it in these little white boxes. This is to make sure that you don't know who you're getting and you can't just feel around and figure it out in the box. So if you're wondering what's up with this, that's all it is, nothing special, just a little way to hide who you're getting. So once you get them all out of the packaging, they're gonna be in this little baggie here, and it's a 2-sided baggie. So one side has got a base, the other side has the character. So I'm gonna go ahead now and set these things up and we'll take a better look at them. All right, and here are the 3 figures out of the packaging that I got. So I got, starting on the left, Super Saiyan Gogeta right over here. In the middle I have Frieza, and on the right I have classic Goku. And to get you an idea of about how big these guys are, they are, as you can see there, just under 3 inches, more or less. I mean, the figures themselves without the bases, they're even smaller. But with the bases, they stand about close to 2.5, 3 inches. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a rotation here, let you guys take a look at them from all angles. And you can see that each one of them does have a base, and they need that little base to stand on. None of these figures can actually stand up straight on their own. They need to be on those little platforms. So don't get rid of those platforms, whatever you do. They are super important to these figures. Now, as far as sculpting goes and as far as paint, wow, these are really great minifigures, you guys. You know, the price point on these guys, I think, is probably around $6 and probably upwards from there. But they're pretty solid. I mean, Bandai is a company that has done blind bag figures. I mean, they've been in the business of doing gashipan figures, which are those Japanese figures you'd get in Japan from like bubble toy machines. So they've been doing this for a long time, so they know how to put the maximum amount of detail into a very tiny figure and keep it looking great. And that's exactly what you're getting here with these little dudes. And they look like they are pulled straight from the cartoon. They look, or I should say anime, because if I don't, I will get slaughtered in the comments. So yeah, they look like they are pulled straight from the animation cells. They look really great. Like lovely expressions on all of their faces. Great body language too. I mean, they're clearly in combat here, and all these look really cool in terms of their posing. I mean, I wish I had the Brawly, because he looks awesome, but when doesn't he? But yeah, for the most part, I mean, clean paint jobs. You know, these have no articulation, by the way, either. These are just straight up mini figurines, and that they are posed exactly how you see them. So how you see them here today is how you're gonna get them, and that's it. Great paint detail on them. I mean, it's not just like flat tone either, because of how it's sculpted. Like, there is enough space there to get different darks and lights to bounce off of it. Their bodies look really great too. I mean, those have that classic Akira Toriyama style bodies. They are thick, they are muscly, they look great. I mean, these are so cool. And this is, of course, Dead Frieza, I guess. I don't know what to call it. But yeah, he has his little halo on his head. So this is him a little bit later on in the series. And I like how they added that little touch also. It looks really cool. So for the most part, very, very nice. And I do want to point out one other thing here as you see them rotate, and you can see it right now on Vegito, is he has a translucent hairpiece. Now, none of these characters in this line have any like power move effects or anything like that. But Gogeta, well, both versions of Gogeta and Broly both have translucent hair parts. So that's kind of like adding to the whole Super Saiyan look of them. So that part is very, very nice, really well executed. And overall, that's pretty much what I can say about all 3 of these minifigures, and I would assume the entire series of 5. Now that said, I got 4, and I already got a double, so how many it's going to take you to actually complete the line, I can't tell you. I don't know anything about that. But as far as what we got here, very impressed. We're off to a really great start with these little guys here, and I'm pretty sure this quality is going to keep going as we get up in scale. So without further ado, let's move on to, how about the biggest figure in this series? And what is the biggest figure in this scale? That would be the Limit Breaker series figures. Now you'll have to excuse me, I don't have my fluid head tripod, so it's going to be a pretty ugly pan up, but Limit Breaker series is essentially kind of like their budget series too, and it's meant for the younger kids. So this one I have here today is Super Saiyan Rose, Goku Black, which, man, what a name to say. But yeah, we have ourselves Goku Black, evil Goku, and so this is the 12-inch series, like I said. We've seen this before from like Hasbro and other places. Like they're doing their Star Wars characters, Power Rangers, Marvel Legends, that are essentially just this size with a lot less articulation. So these are not really meant for collectors, these are meant for kids to play with. I'll show you guys the back and the sides here. Really nothing too crazy to talk about. The sides, we've got another picture of our character of Goku. I'm pretty sure it's identical. Yep, it's identical on the other side. And the back of the box, well, that's just a classic toy packaging for me there, because the back of the box is basically just, hey, look at who else is in our line. And yeah, the other characters that are in this particular wave is Majin Buu in its final form, and a battle-damaged Super Saiyan Goku. So, these are pretty cool figures too. Like for me, I don't obviously collect these, and I doubt there's too many adults out there who are buying these, but to be honest, I've actually found a lot of times that these 12-inch figures can be pretty good. Not always, but case in point, I want to point out to, let's say, like the, also from Playmates, the Godzilla vs. Kong toys we looked at like 2 years ago. I thought those giant versions were fairly simple because they also had 5 points of articulation, but they were really cool and well sculpted. So sometimes I think certain characters will tend to look good in this type of style. Most of the Marvel characters don't, but I think, based on how these look here, this actually might be a pretty cool figure. So let's go ahead and take it out of the box and see if we can confirm that as fact or fiction. All right, and here's our Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black Mouthful 12-inch figure now, Limit Breaker series out of the box. Do a quick pan here to see. So you guys can see that it's fairly simplistic in terms of details. That's kind of what we expected here. We weren't really expecting anything too crazy, but the nice thing about Dragon Ball in general is that it is a fairly simple style to begin with, and it really lends itself to toys that don't need to have a lot of crazy details. We're not talking Hot Toys, we're not talking anything really crazy here. We're just talking about a cartoon figure, and this looks good. This is really great. Now, this is actually what I was hoping for, and I'm kind of surprised it is this good. This is kind of exactly what I was talking about, and exactly what I want in this style and this size of figure. It just looks like a great, solid representation of who's on screen. That's it. It's just a bigger version of it, and that is what I like about it, because as much as I will appreciate, as we'll see in a few minutes, the other 6-inch style figures, sometimes you just want a nice display piece that is simple, you don't need to worry a ton about, because the price point on these guys, it's not that crazy. It's a pretty fairly affordable figure, but you just want something really simple and also big and just kind of stands out among the collection. This is that. This will get you that. This will fill that gap in your collection. It's going to look really nice next to other things because it is so much bigger. And even though it is really simple in design, the execution is just as good as any other toys we're going to look at today. Everything about this guy is just solid. I do quite mean that literally also, because it's a pretty big figure. Not that heavy though, because keep in mind, again, as we already said, this is a toy that's made for little kids and it's made to be played with. So it is pretty durable, and durability is a good thing for toys too. Even then though, I love the detail, like we actually have the earring over here. Great colors, again, just great job on the sculpting. you know, Dragon Ball does not really have too many figures that are done in a photorealistic style, right? So you can get away with a lot of things here, and I think that we definitely have gotten away with a lot of things that don't detract or don't take away any detail. I mean, really, look how menacing he looks just from this very simple pose, just from how I'm filming it right now. He looks good. So yeah, 12-inch figures, still pretty solid. I mean, they're excellent for little kids who are loving DBZ and want to play with them, and you don't worry about smashing a $20, $30 toy. But even for adult collectors, I'm actually going to say, surprisingly, yeah, still pretty good, still worth it. So yeah, it's going to add some nice variety to your Dragon Ball display. So yeah, you know, I'm going to give this one 2 thumbs up also. That's only 1 thumb, but you get the idea. There's going to be another thumb here. There we go, 2 thumbs. So that's our look at one figure from the Limit Breaker series. Highly recommend this one also, but now let's get down to what are easily going to be my favorites, and that's the 6-inch articulated action figures. Oh, I cannot wait to get to these, so I'm going to quit babbling and, well, keep filming. So we are now into the Dragon Star series. This is one of my favorites. So we're going to now go ahead and take a look at 2 of the, I guess, earliest characters in the series, earliest bad guys. And this will be, of course, one that turned good later. Vegeta. We have Vegeta in his Super Saiyan outfit, and also joining him, Nappa. So we got the dastardly duo who basically kick off Dragon Ball Z. Oh man, these guys just look so good just immediately in the boxes. I mean, I cannot wait to see how they look out of them. But real quick, I guess we should talk about the packaging. And what you can basically see is what you get here. I mean, these are pretty simple, basic packaging, but they look good. Now, granted, I don't really know a lot of folks who collect these in the packaging, but if you're one of them, let me know. But it's basically a very simple black box, just basically a rectangular box, nothing fancy, no crazy die cuts on it really. It's got some sort of a texture pattern, which is like almost an impact look, you know, so it's almost like a crater or something just hit them and this is the look. So it's like nice and cracked, really simple pattern, but looks pretty shiny, looks very nice. We have speaking of shiny, we have a very shiny logo here at the Dragon Stars logo and their names. Big window, and that's basically what you're gonna see throughout all the Dragon Ball figures we're gonna look at today is very big windows so you can see everything in there. Nothing really too interesting on the sides, just you get, you know, images of the characters from the anime. And then on the back, well, even less interesting detail there, because it's just basically who else is in this line, and this line is purely just Vegeta and Nappa. No bios, no information about who else is in the line, no information about accessories, because they don't really have a ton in these particular figures, and not really any looks at other lines of these toys either, because, you know, we also have the Anime Heroes line, which we've talked about on this channel before, but really nothing, just very sparse packaging, and it basically just beckons to be opened. So, well, I think I have to do what it says. So let's go ahead and take these guys out of the box. All right, so here's our Vegeta and our Nappa out of the packaging. And I think the question that a lot of you people are probably wondering right now, and it's a pretty important one, is does this armor come off? Does it come off to reveal their physiques underneath it and just have them in their normal outfits? The answer is no. This is molded onto them completely. This does not come off. None of this armor comes off. So sorry, you guys, but that would definitely add to the cost of these toys. Maybe down the line they'll do something like that if they haven't already done that. But what you see is what you get here. But what you get is really great, because I mean, this is some top-notch sculpting here. I mean, this looks like it's pulled straight from the anime. It looks so good, very accurate. I mean, I'm not going to be counting all the different lines on their armor here, but I'm going to just go ahead and say that it's identical to the show. I'm going to just take that risk here. Likewise, the colors and their power scanners too, I'm going to say it look pretty good, because I mean, they look really good. Those power scanners are such a cool little thing. And again, if you're wondering, do these come off? The answer is no. That is molded onto their heads. Sorry, you guys, you can't swap them out to other figures. It is what it is. Now, can you swap the heads? Possibly, but I don't really think these toys are meant to do that. So if you did want to swap any heads, put these on other toys, you're going to want to definitely heat up those joints very, very, very much, either with a lot of hot water or a very hot hair dryer. But that's a different video. Now let's talk about likenesses here, because these things look really great. They just look so much like the cartoon, like I'm not going to get over that. But, you know, I feel like anime is one of those things where you can either nail it on the first try or it's completely wrong and it looks terrible. And Bandai's been doing this for a long time, you guys, so they know how to make these things look good. These look exactly the way that they should. These are perfect. Like, to me, these likenesses are just one for one, which is so hard to do with something that's like 2D in the world of anime. Like, they nailed this. I mean, the likenesses, again, likenesses are fairly simple. That's kind of the problem in them, because they don't really offer you a lot of depth to sculpt a toy out of. But they've done that. They've figured out how to do it and make it work really nicely. Paint jobs are also very clean as well. You know, I'd say this is probably the first time I've actually seen a little bit of paint splotch on Nappa's head, but I'm pretty sure if I magic eraser that gently, I can probably get that little smudge off his head. I don't even know if you guys can even notice it, because it's very, very tiny, very small little thing there. Back of the head, of course, you know, Nappa's bald, so not much to talk about, but can we talk about that flowing head of Vegeta hair? I mean, wow. And nice to know. It's also not that sharp. It's actually not sharp at all. So, I mean, yeah, if you jab someone in the eye with it, it's going to hurt like a lot. But as far as it being pointy and sharp and being an actual weapon, it is not. So that's cool. And this is also nice. I was actually wondering how they're going to deal with the problem of their tails being wrapped around them. And I was wondering too, would those tails be some kind of articulation or anything like that? Unfortunately, they are not. But yeah, they do have their tails. There they are. So let's go ahead now, and I think we should spend some time talking about articulation, because I think that's one of those things that Bandai figures really, really are excellent at. They really excel at doing that, not really at the cost of the figure. And when I say that, I mean, like, you know, these are toys. And when you have articulation in a toy, it shows lots of joints. These Bandai toys in general tend to have a lot of very exposed joints. They're not really hidden that well. You see them. You pretty much have to see them. But that said, they incorporate them really well, and they're worth it because these guys are meant to fight and move around. So yeah, you want to have a lot of joints in these guys. So let's go ahead and we'll just start talking about them here. So they both have left and right heads. Looks like it's actually the neck joint on Nappa that moves as well as the head independently from that. So that's kind of nice. And it looks like, yeah, it's going to be the same thing for Vegeta. Now, it is ball jointed, so you can get nice, good range of motion there too. Now let's find out about the big question here, which is the shoulder pads. I'm wondering, do these hinder the articulation? Are they part of the articulation? Let's find out here. So yes, they actually do move a little bit. They have a little bit, oh, you can actually just pop them off completely. All right, so that's good to know. So you can really get some good posing in there if you want, because, you know, without it, they can't move much, but yeah, you can actually just slide them around, and that's great. And you can hear them, they snap back in place, so that's good to know. But yeah, they do have full range of motion on the shoulders in that case, both of them. You know, if I'm doing it on Nappa just because Nappa's a bigger character, and bigger characters tend to not move as well, but he's moving just as equally good as Vegeta is. So yeah, we've got double jointed elbows, which is great. I love that. We have wrists that are very, very flexible also. They bend, they flex, they rotate. Great articulation here. Now, as far as chest goes, there is, it looks like, waist articulation. There we go. Oh, well, there you guys can see the actual joint. I don't think it was meant to do that, but yeah, he's, oh, interesting. So yeah, you actually can take that off. I don't know why you'd want to, but you can, because again, the rest of his armor looks like it does not come off. I'm saying that because you can see the molding there. But okay, that was a weird, unexpected thing that you can actually swap that off. I'm gonna put this back on here because that's also kind of unsettling to see Nappa in his undies. So the waists do move, but I would probably suggest you don't move them that much because it is a little bit of a tight joint there. And the fact that I just disrobed Nappa is very unsettling. So yeah, it looks like both of them are gonna have that issue. So something to be aware of. A surprising little detractor in there, but yeah, if you're gonna move them around, maybe don't move the waist too much or be very gentle with it, because I think that belt is actually just kind of making them pop this thing out way easier. Now, as far as legs go, yeah, I was actually, again, worried about these padding getting in the way, but no, you still got pretty good range of motion here, and they have double jointed knees as well, which is perfect. The boots, let's see, looks like the boots do not move. Let's see, it might just be that they're very stiff, but it looks like they don't move. So that's one thing you don't get. But you do get the feet that have a nice exposed ball joint, so you get a good amount of articulation there. So, okay, the boots don't move. Not really a major problem, though, because for the most part, the posing you're going to do won't really involve turning their boots too much. There's also no thigh cut like you would see, let's say, in like a WWE action figure, like an Elite or anything like that. So you're not getting that, but you're still getting a pretty great amount of articulation for this price point, and I can't really argue that too much. Now, as far as accessories go, Vegeta comes with a pair of additional hands, which you can see here, and Nappa has 3 additional hands. So total of 5 hands. That's it for accessories. I'm just gonna pop 1 or 2 out right now. Let's just see if it's easy or not to do that. Goodbye. Oddly enough, I'm just realizing all 3 of the hands that Nappa comes with are actually for his right hand, not his left. So, okay, let's try that again. Interesting thing to note there. But let's go ahead and just pop out another hand. I'm wondering if that's a mistake or something, because that's kind of weird that they're all the same. In fact, I'm actually looking at these hands here. These look like they're identical, don't they? Like maybe there's a mistake here. Not quite sure what's up with that, but yeah, so yeah, the hands, they swap very easily. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same for Vegeta. You know, and the difference basically between what Vegeta has is he gets a pair of closed fists and a pair of open hands. So that's pretty much the main difference for it. Yeah, comes out nice and easy and goes back in just as easily too. So there you guys have it. Good articulation, decent accessories, you know, nothing too crazy, but I'll explain in another video a little bit later on why they don't really have anything else with them. Because you might be wondering where the power effects are. Well, that's actually a different toy and a different video altogether. So we'll come back to that point. Now, how do these guys look next to some other figures? Well, I just happen to have a few other things here. And I've got a pair of WWE basic figures. So I've got a basic Eddie Guerrero, and I've got a basic Samoa Joe, just to show you guys how they look. And they're pretty much in scale with any 6-inch figure you have. They're looking quite nice here, but let's try, just because I also have one of these at the moment, how about a Cobra Bat Trooper from the G.I. Joe Classified series? Yeah, no, he's pretty much in scale. So I mean, the fact that these two lines, which are from Hasbro and from Mattel respectively, are looking fine and in scale with them, that's pretty good. I mean, if anything, I might say that perhaps the Bandai figures are a little bit smaller, because maybe Nappa should actually be bigger. I think he probably should be bigger, in fact, by a little bit, but what does matter at least is that they're close enough in scale so that if you are going to pose them together, they're good enough. It's going to fit together. It's not going to look weird to have them next to toys from other lines. So maybe you want them bigger. That's a fair thing to say, but at the very least, they're in scale, and that makes me happy. So that's our look at Vegeta and Nappa. Let's move on to who is next. All right, so now we have our Dragon Star Series 2-pack here. This is a Target exclusive, so as you can imagine, only going to find it at Target. And this is a 2-pack here of Janemba versus Super Saiyan Gogeta. You may remember Janemba from the 12th Dragon Ball movie. He's the guy who's in the same movie with Adolf Hitler. So Adolf Hitler, canonically, is part of the DBZ universe, or at least some sort of Hitler-like character. So the packaging is pretty much like any of the Dragon Star series figures we've seen, really anything that Bandai has done with their articulated action figures. Very simple packaging, big wide window to let you see right on in there and take a look at every single little detail and every accessory these toys come with. And this particular 2-pack has a lot of accessories. You guys can see already a ton of hands. We had a sword, we have an energy effect, so there's a lot going on in here from the kickoff. As for the box itself, very simple, just basically a long rectangle. We have the same look on all the Dragon Stars figures, which is this nice kind of cracked impact looking packaging on the black, simple colors here. Again, shiny Dragon Stars logo. On each side we have a character from it, so on this side Janemba, on the other side we got ourselves Gogeta. And the back of the box is a little bit different from some of the other figures we've actually been looking at in the Dragon Ball line. It's an illustration, and what a nice illustration it is. So we actually get a look at these characters in combat. This is how they would look in the film, this is how they would look in the anime. It's pretty much how they look drawn. So that's kind of cool. I really actually like that a lot. It adds a lot to the packaging. It's very different, helps to separate it. And yeah, I'm totally into this. I mean, just look at this art. This is really beautiful art, you guys. Like, it's almost worth just cutting this out and keeping this part itself. But we're not going to do that because we're going to get this out of the packaging. And of course, as we always do, we're going to take a closer look at these figures from all angles. All right, let's take a better look now at our Janemba and our Super Saiyan Gogeta. Oh, yeah, no, these look good. As always, I have nothing bad to say right from the get-go, and I get a feeling it's going to be another one of those very positive reviews. And man, it feels good to do those sometimes, just not to nitpick over little annoying things. But yeah, all right, let's take a close look at these figures here. So let's talk about likenesses, as we always do first, and likenesses look great. I mean, Dragon Ball figures are very easy to screw up, I will say. They're very simple, but if you don't do them right, they're going to look hideous. And Bandai's been doing this long enough. They know how to get these likenesses down. They do a great job of it every single time. Looks exactly like them. There's not really any crazy cartoon details I can talk about because they're cartoons. There's nothing really hyper-realistic about them or any real crazy accurate things they need to get, but the information they got correct. And that's really what matters most here. Paint job is also very clean on their faces too. There's not a lot of paint, but what's there is clean. That's a good thing too. Let's take a look at the back of Janemba's head there. It's actually really cool. You can see a little preview of what's behind him too. Of course, we got to talk about that hair as always, and that Gogeta hair. That's some hair. It looks just as good as any other figure that we've seen in the lineup so far. Yeah, no, it's really cool. The main difference here is, in this case, we have this halo effect, which, if you're wondering, does come out. So if you don't want your Gogeta to be dead or have a halo, you don't have to. You can just go ahead and swap it out. But I'm going to leave it on for the sake of this review, at least for as long as it can until it falls out. But all things considered, it's actually in there quite tightly. So I don't think you have to worry about it really falling out at all. Like, they've engineered this thing to stay in place. So yeah, no concerns there whatsoever about that. So yeah, great facial expressions too on both these guys. I mean, this is their faces in combat here, and it looks like they're fighting. Colors are very nice. They really pop. They're very vibrant, as you'd want them to be. Looking at these guys, you got this great purple, red, radiant colors. And then the orange and black just looks so good. I mean, that just is hats off really to the designers, whoever designed these characters in the Dragon Ball world. I don't know if this was Akira or Toriyama or not, but whoever designed them, they know what they're doing. Looks good. Just great, simple colors. that really pop and shine and look wonderful next to each other. So let's talk articulation here, because that's going to be a big thing. And as we've really seen in the other videos, shoulder pads are really nothing to worry about because some of these characters have them, and Bandai has figured out how to make them move and not get in the way of your articulation. So let's start here with our Gogeta. You guys can already see from earlier, the heads, they're ball jointed, and likewise for both of them. Not really any hindrances on Gogeta, just that he has a lot of hair. Some of it might get in the way of the shoulder pads, but no, actually looks like it doesn't. So you're not losing on any articulation there because of his giant hair. Janemba, totally fine. He can move around as much as he pleases. Nice, good joints there. Shoulders, no problems at all with Janemba. Look at that uppercut. Yeah, wow. I was actually worried about those shoulder pads in particular, but that looks good. Can our Gogeta do the same? Yeah, more or less. I mean, unfortunately, looks like this piece does not move. I was hoping it might have, but it doesn't. Some of their figures had shoulder pads. They are movable. These are not, so you can't get the arms straight up. It is going to be a little bit out to the side, but still does the job. And that's fine here. So we could have them kind of hulk up a little bit here. You guys can see better. So we have a double jointed elbow right here. We have a bicep swivel also with that ball jointed shoulder. And our wrists can bend and flex. So no hindrances of movement there whatsoever. Just the one thing on Gogeta is that shoulder, as we already talked about. Now let's see if the waist can move. All right, Gogeta, good waist movement there. Pretty solid. Janemba, he's got a really weird body. So let's see how this is gonna work here. So he basically has like the almost McFarlane torso going on. That's how he's gonna move. No waist joint here, that doesn't move. It's just basically a piece glued into the crotch piece. But okay, still has some decent articulation. The waists don't really move a lot, I've noticed, on these Dragon Ball figures, but it's giving you enough of what you need to get the job done. And to be quite fair to the way you're gonna pose these, as much as I would like it to be a better unhindered articulated joint, it moves just enough for what you're gonna do with them. Now, legs are interesting here. Janemba, you can see, actually has the same thing. I'm gonna do this here. So yeah, I just learned this. These figures here with the puffy pants, you can actually essentially put them into themselves. Let me move them over a little bit just so you can see it better, but yeah, and currently Janemba is leaning because I just don't have his feet in a proper position, but there it's a little bit better. So yeah, you can actually push their pants up into their crotch pieces. That's a horrible sentence, but it's the truth. And that's how you're gonna kind of hide the joint a little bit. But when you're actually ready for them to fight, all you gotta do is just, you can see right there what I did, you just pop the legs out and now they get their full articulation the way you want it to move around. And they both have excellent articulation. I mean, it definitely looks better to have the joints in there, but when you're ready to actually do stuff with them, yeah, that's what you're gonna do. So both characters have that thing there to do that, help tighten the joints. And you can also see Janemba and our Gogeta also have double jointed knees, as well as articulated feet. So yeah, no real issues with that articulation from either of these guys. The one thing worth mentioning with Gogeta though is because he has, again, the puffy pants, does kind of change up a little bit of the articulation, not by much. It is just a much more noticeable joint because of how it is, but otherwise it's fine. And in terms of articulation, it's looking quite good. There's really no complaints here about it, other than really the waist joint, and that's kind of a personal preference, I feel like. Like I said, I'm okay with it, but if you guys don't like it, I'd like to hear your thoughts. So don't forget to let me know in the comments what you feel about the articulation, because I think for fighty figures, they need to be able to move well, and these do move well. Could they move better? Maybe a little bit, but I'm gonna say for the price point, very, very solid. Now, in terms of accessories, these guys have a ton of accessories. Janemba comes with 4 different hands, and Gogeta has 4 different hands. So we have essentially 10 hands total across these 2 figures. And in addition to the hands, we also get some other unique accessories for these characters. Janemba gets the sword that you saw him package with earlier. Let's get that into his hand right now to show you how that looks. There we go. It's a nice looking sword. And our Vegeta, he already has one of the hands on him, so I'm going to leave that as is for this particular accessory here. But we get this little power-up effect right here. So you'll notice he has a hole in his hand. That hole in the hand would be for using power-up effects, which don't really have any of at the moment. But according to the packaging, he's supposed to be able to actually balance this in his hand. So it might be that you just, he's one of those points in there and kind of rest it in there, because there's not like anything otherwise to put it on his hand. So I think you just got to do some work and you'll find a way to get it into place. I'm not going to fight too hard with this, but there you guys go. So you can get a little bit of a power effect. That's nice, because the power-ups are a completely different toy, which we'll talk about in another thing. But yeah, it comes with some nice accessories, so that's pretty good looking. Now let's just do some size comparisons also, and I happen to have our Vegeta from earlier, as well as our Nappa, so we'll put them side by side. Looking mighty fine here. Yeah, that's how they're going to stand up next to these guys. I'm going to bring in a Mattel WWE Basic Samoa Joe figure, and I've got a G.I. Joe Classified Cobra Bat Trooper. So again, pretty much these 6-inch figures are on scale with each other. They might not be identical perfect scales of how characters should actually be sized, but they are at least in the same general area. And by the way, in case you're wondering, I haven't actually talked about that yet, that's because I'm kind of counting it as an accessory, even though it's not, but Janemba does have a fully articulated tail, not just that it can go up and down, left to right, but this piece here also actually moves around. So that's really cool. Glad they added that. They really had to add it. I mean, you know, we saw with the Vegeta and Nappa, they just had their tails kind of attached to their waists, but no, Janemba has a fully articulated tail, so that really adds to this figure. So that's our look at the Janemba and Super Saiyan Gogeta 2-pack. Let's go ahead and move on to who is next. And now, last but not least, we have the big boy here. This is the star, I think, of the series. We have now the Dragon Stars Power-Up Pack. Now, what makes this thing so special? Well, compared to, let's say, the normal single release of the Dragon Stars figures, those of you recall, they only really have like hands. They rarely have any other accessories with them. In the case of this guy, we have a bunch of power effects. We got some special effects that are going to really add to this figure. It also adds to the cost, logically. But yeah, there's a lot going on in this figure. So wow, this is some really cool stuff here. So let's talk about this packaging real quick, just to get that out of the way. Much like every other figure we've seen from the Dragon Ball Dragon Stars line, same kind of black, same sort of impact crater look. Really nice use of different tones of black also. You know, you've got this nice crack look here, which is darker, and the more gray neutral tone behind it. As always, we got some shiny lettering in here, which does look really nice. Looks good if you're keeping this thing in package, but I don't think I will be because I got to review this thing. On the side of the packaging, we have an image of Vegito over here, and some different ones on this side. So we're actually getting a bunch of images, which is different from all the other packages we looked at so far. Now, the back is also where it's very different from other Dragon Ball Bandai figures in that there's actually information here. Like, this is a big deal, because if you guys recall, when we looked at our Vegeta and Nappa figures, for example, not really anything there. It's just a look at the other two figures in the line. That's it. That's basically it here. But in the case of this power-up pack here, we get to look at all the characters who are in this line, and we get to see everything that they come with. So that would include here a Super Saiyan Goku, Super Saiyan Vegeta, Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black, and the Vegito that we're looking at right now. So this is really nice because we're getting a full tease of who's in this, and we're seeing what they come with. And for you Dragon Ball collectors, I mean, this is like the one to get. This is like the super deluxe one because it comes with everything you need to have a complete diorama setup, have them really in action fighting, and have those really cool power effects. So the box is awesome, pretty informative, nicely designed. Again, I love that you can see everything in there, but this isn't going to be one of those reviews where you just stare at the box, so let's go ahead, get our Vegito out of the packaging, and take a closer look at him from all angles. All right, and here is our Super Saiyan Vegito out of the packaging now. Let's take a closer look at him because, oh man, we got some stuff to talk about here. Now, if you've been watching any other videos that we've done about these Dragon Ball series, you already know a lot about these guys, and really there's nothing different about him at all in terms of being a figure. Like, we can talk about likeness and how it looks exactly like it does in the anime. That's perfect. Nailed it. Spot on. Really nice shiny hair too, speaking of. We can talk about the earring, which is there too. He even got the earring detail on there, both sides. Looking very nice, shiny earrings. Let's talk about this hair for a second, because, you know, why not? If we're going to be on the topic of likenesses, which, again, you know, I've already said this a bunch of times, but translating a 2D thing like Dragon Ball into 3D is such a difficult thing to do, but Bandai is excellent at it, and they nail it every single time that they do it, and really no difference here. I do want to talk about this hair, though, because, as always, when you talk about Super Saiyan hair, it's like some of the coolest stuff out there. And yeah, really, just, they got it right. Like, look at how good that is. Very pointy, very tall, nice texture in there, and they're not going crazy. They're not like trying to sculpt every single individual hair detail, because that would make no sense to do that for Dragon Ball, because Dragon Ball doesn't do that. You just have a few lines every now and then to let you know that it is hair, and man, it's some hair. They really do have like the craziest hair in Dragon Ball. But yeah, it's looking great. And let's talk, I think, articulation next, which, you know, you can already see a little bit of here. So he has a ball-jointed head, just like the other figures, as well as this neck joint here kind of moves a little bit too. We have full range of motion in the shoulders. I was worried about this because, again, he's got some shoulder pads here, but just like we saw with Vegeta and Nappa and their shoulder pads, which you guys can see here, you know, are quite massive, these do move. There's nothing really hindering them. So you get that full range of motion that you're looking to get here. I mean, it does move separately, but it moves, and that's what matters. The fact that you can get it to move into positions to help you get the poses that you want. We've got a bicep swivel here, as well as double jointed elbows, and wrists that can bend and flex and rotate, and yes, they come off as you see there, so I'm going to stick this one back on, but we'll get back to his hands a little bit later. The waist is the thing that sometimes has been a troublesome thing, but it's moving all right here. It is a little tight just because of the sash, but it does move, and he can also do some of this here because we have a nice big T-hinge piece. So because of the shape of his crotch piece, though, he can't exactly kick like a straight front kick. You can still get other kicking poses from it, just a little bit different. Also, he has double jointed knees, which you can see right here. But keep in mind, because his pants are so thick, it does kind of hinder a little bit of movement. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of work to get certain kicks. So maybe this just isn't the kind of character you kick a lot with. I mean, considering what accessories he comes with, it probably makes sense to not have him kick as much. And the feet also ball jointed, very flexible. That looks fine. Really no issues there whatsoever with the feet moving around. But yeah, Bandai figures and Dragon Ball figures always have great posability. Really, there's no exception to the rule here. This figure just as good as any other ones that we looked at. So let's talk accessories, because that's where this is going to really change things up for us here. So as I already mentioned, and we already kind of saw, his hands do pop out. We have an additional pair of hands here, so one for each hand. And generally what they do is one pair of closed fists and one pair of open hands. So we're going to swap the open hands on now, because that is what's going to go perfectly with the next pair of accessories we have here, or trio of accessories, I guess. And yeah, I love hearing that popping sound. That is the pop of success. There we go. Hands are in. You're now in perfect position to do a projectile attack. So I think that means in this case, it's time to talk about those really cool additional accessories. And one of those is this piece right here. So we have 3 translucent pieces that are going to make up their power effect. That is what makes the power-up pack different from all the other figures in this lineup. Now, a lot of the other figures in this series, they have hands that actually have holes in them so that they can hold their beams. You can see here, our Vegito does not have that. So that means he will just be holding his power-ups. And according to the packaging, that's basically what he's supposed to be doing here anyway. So you are supposed to essentially just like wiggle this into position, and he can actually hold this like he's going to be shooting it. Now, how you do that? Well, that's up to you to figure that one out, you guys. But let's see, it shouldn't be terribly difficult to do. I think it's like one hand's on the outside, one hand's on the inside. And there you guys go. You can see it right here. So that's how that's going to look. And we also have, to go with that, this big boy here, this giant block of plastic. Let me move up my Vegito so we can get this behind him. But yeah, we have this giant energy thing right behind him, which is even as tall as the figure, actually a little bit taller, it looks like. So there you guys go. So now he is really powering up. That looks so good on camera. Wow. Oh wow. Yeah, no, that looks great. Let me pull back a little bit so you can see just how it looks too with his whole body and frame. Man, that's looking good now. I mean, it was already looking good before, but now it's like a whole new level. Like, this is what we've been waiting for. I think this is what Dragon Ball Z collectors want especially, is they want those power effects, and oh boy, you're getting it here. So that's how he's looking with that. But he also comes with one other power effect. This one's a little bit weird to me though. Now, this effect here is meant to be the beam shooting out of his hand, but unfortunately, he doesn't actually have any hands to specifically hold it with. Like, you can actually see there's a little hole here. So like, I don't think I'm supposed to just pop it onto his hand without like a hand, that'd be kind of weird, wouldn't it? But let's just try that and see if that actually is what they want us to do, because okay, maybe that is actually what I'm supposed to do here. So it's kind of weird, but as you can see here, it does fit, it does work. It just doesn't quite look right to me, but I mean, yeah, you're getting it, you're doing it. He's firing off a big old heckin' beam, so okay, I mean, he's doing it. It just kind of looks weird, the fact that he doesn't have a hand here, so I get the feeling maybe there's something else I'm missing here with this guy. Maybe you guys in the comments let me know what's up with that, because it feels kind of weird, but besides that, really, I mean, the fact that you have the other elements here, especially this back piece here, I mean, this makes him really stand out and look very, very cool. Now let's compare him to a few other figures, and since we are talking Dragon Ball, why don't we go ahead and bring in our Vegeta, and let's bring in our Nappa. Boom, so there you guys go. If you want to check out my review of both of these guys, there's a whole video all about them, so make sure to check that out on my channel. But you guys can see, in terms of height, I mean, everything is good. The one thing you can note here is that everybody's basically the same height. I feel like Nappa should be bigger, but he's not. He's basically the same height as every other guy we're looking at here today. Really, the other characters are taller because they have bigger hair. I mean, Nappa still is like girthy and bigger and wider and more broad than these two guys are. But in terms of height, that might not be quite right. So, any of you hardcore Dragon Ball fans want to let me know, go ahead and let me know in the comments if this is accurate, but I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm not getting too nitpicky about it. I know a lot of folks are very nitpicky about size, and I would be too if it was another figure, if it was a more expensive figure especially. But the fact that these guys are like, what, under $25 still a piece, I'm not gonna really nitpick too much. I'd love it if he was bigger, if that's the case, but I can get why, and it still looks pretty good the way it is. But yeah, that's how these guys look side by side. Let's just try another figure or two here. And I've got my WWE basic Eddie Guerrero, because, you know, you can't have Dragon Ball without Eddie Guerrero, right? And I've got a Cobra Bat Trooper from G.I. Joe Classified. So these are essentially figures from two other lines, one from Mattel, one from Hasbro, and they're in scale. Whether they are the correct scale, of course, that is a different story altogether. I don't know if they're actually the right scale, but they match up. And to me, that's good enough, because at least that means you guys can have your big old universe with everybody hanging out together. That part makes me happy. Now the question is this power-up pack worth it? Because really what you're getting is the same as any of the other figures in this lineup. You're just getting these extra power-up accessories. And for my money, I would say, yeah, I think it is worth it actually, because you kind of do need it to complete the look. And it's in scale, because otherwise you're going to be buying some of the other ones that are like for 5-inch figures, and they are noticeably smaller. They're not going to fit necessarily. I think for the price point, what you're getting, definitely worth it. So yeah, if you are a super Dragon Ball fan, you're going to want to get the power packs to be really complete. And the nice thing too is that, you know, all the hand joints are swappable. It's, you know, it's a universal hand joint, so, you know, you have gloved hands here. That means one gloved hand on a character with an open hand that can hold a beam can swap onto another character with a glove. Or for example, the Goku that has ungloved hands that are basically, you know, this kind of flesh color anyway, that can go onto any figure. So if you get one power pack, you're getting a lot of mileage for it, because those power up accessories can go onto any toy. So that's our look at Vegito here. Let's just do some final thoughts now about the entire line and talk about all these figures. All right, so that is our big look, our big overview of Dragon Ball figures from Bandai in all sizes. Not pictured here, unfortunately, is that Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black, because he would be completely out of the frame. But hey, this lovely Breakfast Club inspired image here is a look at pretty much what we're getting here. So that's the little tiny dudes on the bottom and the sides here, and all the different 6-inch style figures that you get, and they look wonderful. They really are great toys, you guys. I've said this before in all my reviews of Bandai stuff, and I'm going to say it again. And I think I said it at the start of this video too, but I think these are some of the most underrated action figures on the market. You know, Dragon Ball and anime collectors, it's kind of a certain subsect of toy collector out there. And you don't really see these toys spoken about really in the same regard as like the G.I. Joe Classifieds or the Marvel Legends, things like that. But I think these Dragon Ball figures are amazing. Their articulation is great. The price point, very great also, which I think is a big deal about these figures. And the prices always do fluctuate. I'll have links for Amazon below. You can see those prices. I'll talk about that more in a second. But for the most part, I've always found Bandai toys to be very affordable and just so much worth the bang for the buck. The amount of articulation that you get, the accessories that you're getting are very nice. The paint jobs are always clean. I've never had a bad paint job for a Bandai figure. They know what they're doing. They're doing a great job. And I've never been disappointed by these toys. I don't think you will be either. They're really great. So if you're an anime fan and you're not getting these and haven't gotten any of these yet, you know, it's time you correct that, because they're so good. They're so worth the money. And speaking of, if you want to get these for yourself, I'm going to have links to all of these and probably some more Dragon Ball stuff from Amazon in my description below. So if you use any of those Amazon affiliate links, that helps out this YouTube channel at no extra cost to you. And I really think these toys are worth buying. I think that they are totally great investment to have. Just as a toy collector, as a fan of anime, whatever they might be, they're awesome. I can't say enough good things about them, and I could probably keep going on and on if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. So with that said, I'm Matthew. This has been our big overview of Dragon Ball figures from Bandai in different sizes and scales. Go get them. This has been Nerd News Today, and I will see you Kamehameha later.